welcome to Run, Build, Grow, the podcast that laces up its running shoes and dives deep into the heartbeat of the communal spirit of running. I'm your host, Andrew Ware, the Runnin' Rev, and I'm thrilled to take you on this exhilarating journey where we explore stories that go beyond the pavement. In this episode, I am joined by Hampton Roads runner Montana Ross. Montana and I are both J&A ambassadors. Looking forward to Shamrock, getting ready this spring, and so I thought it'd be awesome to have Montana come on, talk a little bit about her running journey, where she has been, and what it has meant for her being a J&A ambassador this year, but also bringing that hype even before she was the ambassador to helping to build out this nature of running community and what it has meant to her. She's someone who you will find out is very much outgoing, is very much a people person, enjoys being in community, but also understands the nature of how to be a part of community, how to help build up community. So Montana and I dive into all of this as we have this conversation together. But before we get into it, I am excited to be partnering with Lucky Road Run Shop out of Richmond, Virginia. Friends, are you ready to run strong and feel great doing it? At Lucky Road Run Shop, they specialize in making every runner, walker, and fitness enthusiast get the perfect fit. Trust me, I have been using Lucky Road for years. They were my go-to run shop when I lived in Richmond. The staff are trained and experts to help make sure you get the right running shoe. They've got brands like Ultra, Asics, Brooks, Hoka, Mizuno, New Balance, On, Saucony, and Topo. Oh my goodness, they literally carry just about everything. Whether you're training for your next race or just getting started, Lucky Road has got you covered, and they have locations all over Central Virginia. So if you're ever in Central Virginia, be sure to stop by and check out Lucky Road and tell them that Andrew sent you. You can go to luckyroadrunshop.com to check out more. And now let's dive into this episode with Montana Ross. All right, welcome in, everybody. We are back in the 757, and today I have Montana Ross on. Montana, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think we finally have a little bit of warm weather that's come our way, so maybe the snow and ice will get away and we can actually log some decent miles.
Oh, I know. Today's long run was actually really nice. It wasn't as bitterly cold as it has been, so that was really great.
I bet our Detroit and Colorado crowds are just laughing at us mid-Atlantic folks, complaining about a little bit of cold and trying to get some miles in. But Montana, let's start here at the top of our conversation. What is your community and what makes your community awesome?
Well, for this area, the Hampton Roads running community is just amazing. I actually kind of lucked out because I moved here randomly, and I got a job here and didn't really know anything about the area before I got here. But then I got here and started kind of interacting with the running community. We've got several major run clubs in the area: North End Run Club, Norfolk Run Club. To name two of the top ones that I go to that have several hundred people that attend on a weekly basis. And then J&A Racing is the major, race area, race provider in this area. And then joining their community this year, I just met so many more runners and interacted with so many more people. And I think it's just amazing how close-knit the community is. I feel like everybody knows each other at these races and events and, group runs. And everybody kind of connects with each other and just chats with each other and supports each other and their goals and everything like that. So, it really makes it feel like it's more of a small town when it's actually a bigger area. Yeah,
definitely a bigger area. And it's always, we see it all the races a lot. The run clubs, they kind of do go here, go there, they kind of pick out their points in a lot of the after parties. But then there's also that intermingling because no one always stays in that zone the whole time. It's just kind of like their home base. I'm going to leave my backpack right here, but I'm going to go and circle the tent and try and see who I can talk to, which I think is one of the great things. So, what did it look like for you? So you say you're not from Hampton Roads. So what did your, early life look like? What got you into running? Even what brought you to Hampton Roads, and what did community look like before you were here?
Yeah, those are great questions. So I grew up in Florida my whole life. I was there till I was 35. And I started running at age 26, I believe. So I mean, adult onset runner, that's what I call myself. Wasn't somebody who did like cross country or anything in high school. But I'm really glad that I actually did it that way, because I think if I had had that structure and with my dad being as strict about sports as he is, I probably would have ended up hating running had I done it in high school. But I got to do it on my own terms, and it's kind of a funny story because I got into running via someone who hates running. She signed us all up for a color run 5K together, me and a bunch of other girls. And she still to this day absolutely loathes running, but she wanted to do this together, and we did it together. And then me and a couple of the other girls came away with our new addiction, and she still hates it. So I think it's funny that I tell people I actually got into running via someone who hates running.
I mean, it happens to the best of us, right? We blame our friends for our addictions.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they say, would you jump off a bridge if your friend asked you? And I'm like, no, but I probably would run a marathon if they asked me to. So,
it's not quite jumping off a bridge, but I do think, there are some similarities. So as you got more comfortable with running, what was it like for you early on, getting into and finding community while you're running? And so whether it is that first group of friends in that color run, or learning and growing and running more, what did your early days with the running community look like?
I've kind of always gravitated toward communities no matter what I'm doing. So whatever hobby I have, I try to find other people that enjoy it because it's a social thing for me. So with early running, I mean, there were some local run groups. I lived in Sarasota, Florida. There were some local groups and stuff. They were much smaller, of course, than the level you see here.
Yeah.
But I still found a group of people that, there's like 7 or 8 of us that would train together for all our races. And mostly we did the same events and stuff. Sarasota's kind of a small town. It lots of people that live there, but it's not very big in terms of events and stuff like that. So, I mean, everybody would kind of train for the same races. Everybody would do long runs together. Everybody would just kind of come together and celebrate each other's wins. And there were a couple events where you could do team runs where you had a relay between 2 people. So we'd do that kind of stuff. And then I moved to Tampa in 2017. And that's really where I began to kick off. I found really amazing communities. There was I don't know if you've ever heard of She Runs This Town, the women's running group. They're nationwide. But it's just all women. It started off as Moms Run This Town, and then they realized that a lot of people who aren't moms were joining. And so they made it into She Runs This Town, just for women in general. And I was a member of that group in the Riverview Fishhawk area, which is right outside Tampa where I lived. And I met some of my closest friends in that group. We'd run together 5-6 times a week, mostly at 4:00 in the morning, because in Florida, the sun's trying to kill you as soon as it comes up.
I can understand that.
But, it was just yeah. It's awful. There's something to be said about sharing early morning miles with people, and you just talk about stuff that happens in your life, especially other women, when you're a woman and stuff. So it was kind of a really close knit community, and we really got to know each other in the 3 years that I lived there, and we got very close. And I would run with the same people, and we'd all train for the same races. And there was a bunch of races in Tampa and St. Pete that we'd gravitate towards. And then, of course, I was a member of also the Run Tampa club, which was a big club that had weekly runs on Wednesdays and Sundays. Sundays they do a long run. Wednesdays would be just a weeknight event. But I pretty much did those every week. So I'd see the same people, get to know the same people. And then sometimes some of us would meet up on our own to do runs, outside of that. But I had a really great running community in Florida. So that was kind of one of my things when I moved here. I was I really want to find another running community, because I really enjoyed how close we all were in Florida. And then I honestly just don't think I could have ended up in a better place. It was so random. I didn't know anything about this area. And then I came here and I was oh, wow, there's a lot of run clubs. There's a lot of runners in this area. I think Virginia Beach was actually on a list of the top 20 places to move if you're a runner, somewhere, maybe Runner's World did an article like that.
Yeah, would not surprise me. Would not surprise me.
It was the top 20 US cities to live in, and Virginia Beach was on that list.
And I have to imagine that a lot of that was also just the consistency that you were able to bring through the running community, especially once you moved up here. You talk about, meeting up with some of the clubs around here, some of the ones that both you and I know so well. How often are you, going out and being a part of these run clubs? Obviously, someone who's a little bit more outgoing, it seems like you're going to more run clubs during the week, and how much that's playing into your consistency.
I mean, almost every week. I hit up NERC and Norfolk almost every week now. I mean, initially when I moved here, my schedule was kind of up and down with work, so I didn't get to them as often as I wanted to in the beginning, just because like I would work until 6:30, and a lot of them start at 6:30, so I couldn't go to those runs. But then when I got on the consistent like Monday through Friday schedule, and I started working until like 4:30, 5 o'clock, then I've pretty much been at them almost every week. For the last like year and a half, I'd say. I mean, of course, there's some, all weird Tuesdays or Wednesdays where like I have something else going on and I don't make it to them. But on average, definitely at least 3 of the 4 weeks of a month, I'm out there.
And how has that helped your running journey overall to be able to look at that consistency of joining different groups, of joining different, meetups, of things like that, both from your time in Tampa and now your time up here in Hampton Roads?
Well, I mean, like I touched on before, running is a very social thing for me. Any activity I do is social. I get bored doing things by myself. I don't want to do them by myself. So it really helps to have like that, consistent groups that I can go to every week, because even when it's like really crappy weather out, like let's say it's super hot, I hate running in the heat, or if it's like really cold, the opposite, and it's not the like nice in between weather that runners like, that's like 50 degrees all the time. We're really picky about that. But if it's those kind of situations, it's like it gives me more motivation. If I know other people are going to be out there suffering in the same humidity or in the same like windy winter weather with me, then it's like it's easier to get myself out there and to like maintain consistency and the motivation.
Runners who suffer together thrive together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And looking through your Instagram, you kind of have, an all over place. And actually you have this niche in the obstacle run community as well. And so it's not just, collecting miles on the road, but also doing some of these obstacle run races. And what that's been like for you. What got you started in obstacle racing, and what's some of those things that you've taken from that experience?
Obstacle racing was a big part of my life for a really long time. I haven't really done too many in the last couple of years, just due to like logistics of living here. There's not as many in Virginia as there were in Florida. Florida, there was like 10 of them within driving distance of me. But I started out in that one because my college roommate and my best friend was really into them when we were in college. Funny enough, if you knew me in college, I would not have touched mud with a 10-foot pole. I was definitely not a person who liked to get dirty at all. And so everybody thinks it's kind of funny that I actually ended up being so into them. But she signed us up for one. We did another group of like 5 or 6 women got together and did this like local one. It was called Mud Endeavor. RIP that brand. They're not around anymore, but they were a really great local race. And I just had a lot of fun. Like it was basically like being a kid again. So I mean, you get to play on monkey bars and like, tire swings and like, just pick stuff up and put it down, and like just it breaks up the monotony. You run like pretty much a quarter mile to a half mile, and then you got something you got to do before you can keep going. So it was really entertaining. It was really fun. It felt like being a little kid again. So I ended up taking off with that and continuing to do it with. At that first group, I met a group of people. They were called Mud Run Fun. They're also no longer around, but their founder was like really awesome. And literally you just heard these people just screaming on the course all the time to each other, Mud Run Fun. And I was like, who are those people? Like, it was just, it was so in your face that I was like, I need to like figure out who this group of people is. And they all wear the same colors and everything. And so I started chatting with some of them after the race, and then signed up for a bunch of other races that year with them. And there would be like 20 to 50 of us on average at each mud run. And so again, it was more of like we just all show up, and there'd be tents, and we just all leave our stuff there and like go run the course together. The one Spartan I did, the very first Spartan race I did, we actually had our own wave because we had over 250 people signed up for this race out of this group. So we had our own wave entirely, and they let us on the course by ourselves. And so it was just all a bunch of like people that were in this community that were just like screaming at each other and having fun and like, enjoying the course together, helping each other over the obstacles. And that's a big thing in the obstacle racing community, is just helping each other. And you just meet complete strangers who you're totally okay with them, like just hoisting you over a wall, and they become your best friend.
And yeah, I mean, I've done a few Tough Mudders in my life, and that's one of the things that I always appreciated about those was, you know, for lack of better phrasing, it was an individual event, but it was completed by whoever was out there on the course with you. And of course, I had a couple of clergy friends of mine who we would do it together and we'd try and get through all the obstacles together and things like that. But it never stayed like there were three of us and it never stayed just the three of us. There were always others, they would see you struggling to pick something up or struggle to get over a wall, or, you end up kind of building a tower up Everest and then you end up helping like 6 or 7 people also get up. How much of that maybe group mentality of getting through a race, I mean, how much do you see that carrying over into where you are now with running? Obviously not doing any, if at all, obstacle course racing yet, when you probably line up for Shamrock, Harbor, even a lot of stuff that we've done it with J&A, it's always, being in there, helping and supporting. What are the lessons that you took from obstacle course that kind of have made you into that sort of runner today?
Well, with obstacle course racing, it's like, I mean, you're right, it is different in that you're helping each other over obstacles, but you still have that like strong sense of community and people just helping each other. And, regardless of like what your background is or like what your job is or like whatever, like, I feel like runners as a whole, obstacle racing and just regular running, like nobody really cares about that stuff when you're on course. You're just, they're there together. You're each going after your own personal goals, but you're going after them in a sense together as a community. Like each person is rooting on you and helping you to achieve that. I've had several experiences in the running community as far as like regular runs where people just come together to help support somebody who's going after a goal. And it is like really an incredible feeling. I remember a half marathon that I did in 2019. I had set a goal to hit 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that was like a massive PR for me. And I had 6 people run the entire race with me. Like not even focusing on their own goals, just pacing me so that they could help me get to this, finish line in this amount of time. And we did. We were like, it was like 2:14:57 or whatever that I came in at. Nice. But I would not have been able to keep that up, I don't think, without them with me, because they were there. They were, encouraging me, like, being like the pacer would pass and they'd be like, don't worry about him. We're going to catch him eventually and stuff. And I mean, just like giving me those little tidbits of information and help and stuff like that to keep me on track. And it was one of my most perfectly paced races just because I had the support of that community and stuff behind me. So that's still something that happens in regular road running, even if, obstacle racing isn't a huge part of my life anymore. Most recently at Harbor, I had a bunch of people that were running it and we all like hung around at the finish line waiting for each other to finish, and, just cheering each other on. I had a guy that I'm friends with that broke 2 hours for the first time in the half. So we were like all there at the finish line, screaming his name, cheering him on, making sure that he was like, supported and everything, even though like I'm not that fast. So I wasn't running with him, obviously, but like, it was fun to be able to like be there and support each other. And you see each other before the race and then you see each other after and you have your celebratory beers together and like, just chill and hang out. So, I mean, it's just really important to have, I think, the support and stuff of other runners and just have that community with you, because it just makes being at the run so much more fun than if you're there by yourself and you don't know anybody.
Well, I was going to say, I wonder from your perspective, what does that mean as someone on both ends of that, right? You talked about, the 2:15, the 2:14:57, and you talk about cheering them in and bringing them into the finish line. For you as a runner, what does it mean to be on both of those, and why? I mean, it's not something that is, exclusive to Hampton Roads. I think a lot of places you can go and there will be people cheering and shouting. And I mean, you look at like the Boston Marathon, you see the Boston, you see Boston Run Clubs on the sidelines cheering and bringing people in. But from your perspective, like here in Hampton Roads at races that we do, whether J&A, Striders, Flat Out, whatever it is, what brings us out? What continues to encourage us to maybe be the better part of what community can be, to show others that like we care about the first runner that comes in all the way to the last runner that comes in, and we are so excited for that.
Well, for J&A, honestly, I feel like it's mostly like Jerry and Amy have brought that to the community. I don't really recall ever being at any other, like those races are actually pretty big, but they have like a smaller hometown type of feel. Like if you look
Yeah.
at the average amount of participants, they are a larger race, but like it has that hometown feel. And I don't think I've ever been in a race where I see the race directors on course cheering people on. Jerry is always by the finish line at every single race, like cheering people on, high-fiving them, like getting,
And Amy,
hyping them up. And
Amy
Amy's
just
like after
appears
the finish
wherever on the
line.
course.
Yeah, she'll be after the finish line handing out medals or something like that, or in like the stores and stuff like that. But like they're out there like interacting with the runners. And I honestly don't think out of any other big race I've been at that I've seen that. Part of it here, like they all have their tents, Run Club Alley, and everybody is just like encouraged to come out. NERC will post in their Facebook group, if you're not running, you're cheering. Like get out and get on the course with us, and help us out and like bring signs and bring the hype. So I mean, it's they really encourage you in every way to like be out there and support each other and stuff. And I think that's for if you've ever spectated a race before just as a spectator and not been a participant, I think it's also really cool. I went and I've spectated Run Disney and stuff before, and it's just incredible like being there and seeing all the runners and seeing them all achieve their goals and the emotions and everything like that. It really makes you want to run an event after you do that. I mean, Boston is a dream. I'd love to spectate that race. I will never qualify for it. I'm not that fast, and I don't really care to be. But I'd love to watch my friends do it. I have friends that are pushing for qualifications. So as soon as they get their qualifications, we've already talked about it. I'm like, I'm gonna fly up and I'll watch you run it.
Well, and I think that's a cool thing, and probably something I don't know in a lot of other communities how it's experienced. For me, talking to people on the pod, but also experiencing it here in Hampton Roads, it really is. I love the sentiment of, hey, you're not running, you're cheering. That's whether you've run the race and now you're done, or you're not running the race, you should still come out and cheer and help others. And it's that reminder that there's so much of the community that's given to us. And I think that's why it means so much when you hear someone like you say, I had 6 people in my run club who came and paced me to what was at that time just a PR that I never thought I could do, whatever it was. And then now you're thinking of ways that you want to be able to give back to community. And so whether it is in the process of destroying PRs now, or, whether you're not running, to be able to say, okay, but if I'm on the course, I want to be cheering. If I'm not on the course, I want to be cheering. I want to make sure that other people get that same experience. When you begin to set your own goals, when you be able to begin to think, so for those of you listening, we have Shamrock coming up just in, less than a couple of months now. Yeah. And so I guess I would assume you're running Shamrock.
Yeah. I'm doing the Dolphin Challenge. I'm doing the 8K and a half.
So as you're thinking about your goals for a race like that, how are you making your own goals? And then how are you finding opportunities within those goals? Because you say the Dolphin Challenge. So for listeners who aren't familiar, that's Montana will run an 8K on Saturday and a half marathon on Sunday. And so she's running both days. And yet, we probably also will see Montana out there, cheering on and doing all that stuff. How are you balancing both the goals and this sort of desire to build community, to be a part of community, to hype up community? What are you doing to balance both of those?
Well, for this one, this is going to be an easy one for me because this is my first half in 4 years. So I have 0 time goals. I'm just going out there to finish the race and just try to not die. That's always a goal.
Rule number 1.
One of the things I love to do is after the half at Shamrock is just, stick around and cheer the marathoners on, because there's usually a lot of them that are coming after me. I mean, I don't run a half particularly fast, but I don't think there are a lot of people that run a marathon in 2 hours and 30 minutes to 2 hours and 40 minutes, unless they're very, very, very fast. There might be a few of those in Hampton Roads, but I don't think there's a lot of them. So I just stick around and I cheer on the marathoners, and, the parties on the beach are like next level. So it's fun to just be around there and like go to the tent afterward and interact with other, JNA ambassadors and JNA, Jerry and Amy themselves and the other people that are out there. So they make it really easy to just be there and just spend the entire morning out on the course and just, not only for your own goals, but for other people's. As far as training, like, just getting out there and logging the miles, and I I find people that are also running the races, and then we kind of plan our own runs on weekends and stuff sometimes. And got a friend in Virginia Beach who's going to be running the 8K with me, so we're going to probably do that together. So I mean, it's just finding other people who are doing it, and which isn't hard with Shamrock. It's the biggest race of the year, so like everybody always comes out for that in Hampton Roads. It's if you miss it, I don't know, people are it's kind of weird. Most runners aren't going to miss that weekend. Most runners even, I know people that are like going on their honeymoon and they make it back in time for Shamrock because it's that important. So
it's that big of a weekend. And, a little bit about kind of that, this next period of your journey of being an ambassador with J&A and, working not with just J&A, but working with other brands around the running community. What's it been like for you now to see yourself as a leader, see yourself as an example in the running community, somebody who is, setting the pace? I mean, I never consider setting the pace as someone who's going like super fast. They're not setting records, but they're setting the pace in terms of I embody this community. I mean, Jerry calls us to that all the time of just being members of the community. So what's it been like for you now what's it been like 7-8 months to be one of those pace setters, to be one of the community leaders, and whether, not leading an actual run club, so to say, but being someone who's visible in the community as a leader, as part of a group, as part of a brand person?
I feel like with becoming a J&A ambassador, I feel like it opened up a lot of opportunity for me to meet other people and to be more consistent and meet other runners. Because I mean, now that I am going more consistently to run clubs and I do have my face out there and my name out there in the community, I think it's easier to find the same people, to meet not only other ambassadors, but other people in the running community, and then just chit chatting. And I find people to talk to at almost every run club and everything. So it's been really cool to just have that opportunity open up to where I can meet more people and interact more in the community and start to really find a place for myself. I know that, I don't know if you are from here, if you've moved around, but it can be kind of hard when you first come into a new place and you don't really know that many people. I mean, it's hard to find a community per se, but it took a couple of years, but I feel like now I've got a much bigger community and it's getting close to the kind of community I had when I was in Tampa, which is, it does take some time to get to that level, but I think definitely being an ambassador for J&A has helped to, get me more out there and meet more people and be, more front and center.
Yeah. And, I've had guests on the podcast who have been a part of, national brands, whether it's Brooks or ASICS or anything like that, even being, by no means do I consider the Shamrock like one of the biggest marathons in the U.S. In fact, I love that it's not. I love that it is a big marathon that has a hometown feel. And so what's it like for you to be focused more with a local brand instead of thinking about, I got to go and be a part of this brand or that brand, but to really focus yourself on, hey, I want to do what I can in the Hampton Roads community, and to say hey, that for however long you want to, but this local community, what was that decision like for you? What did it look like for you to want to be involved with J&A and, to keep that community aspect Hampton Roads right now, or at least make what is happening here as big as it can be?
Well, I still do national brands. I do Gooder sunglasses. That's one of mine currently, and the Pro compression socks that you guys see me wearing at every race. You'll never see me without my knee high compression socks on. I'll be wearing those when I'm 85 and still running. So I mean, the difference between those two, I think though, is as great as those communities are, it does have a different feel when you're in person versus virtual. You can do all kinds of fun virtual stuff together. You can do Zooms, and you can do Slack, meetings and stuff. That's what Gooder uses. So it's you can do that kind of stuff and you can have fun, but I feel like it's just got a different feel when you're in person and you get to spend time around these people and you get to really know them and their families and their histories and stuff like that, more so than you do, I think, when you have a big national, brand and virtual community. Because you don't see each other as often and you don't interact as often. You might interact some online, but it's not going to be the same as when you're just logging miles with somebody every week and chatting with them and like kind of learning about their, history and their how they got into running and their whole life and everything. I mean, lots of stuff comes out when you're interacting in person that might not come out online. So I think that really it is a different feel, and it's feels more tight knit, and like, I'm getting to make friends, actual friends, versus just having some, virtual connections and some people. Now, I mean, I did make some really great friends with the pro compression community, even though it was virtual. I've had like some great friends that have come out of that. I mean, I've been a part of that community for 10 years now. I started in 2015 with them. So, I mean, after a certain amount of time, you do start to get to know people. I just think it happens a little quicker when you're in person and you have that consistency of weekly seeing the same people versus, maybe seeing the same people like, at different races across the country a couple times a year.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to be said. I think it's often harder for the national brands in that respect to sort of foster that community in a real and genuine sense without, I mean, I see it all the time. A lot of the national brands, they have ambassadors who are with them for like 4, 5, 6 years, and are starting to kind of build community around that. And then there's that local aspect where, we are running together or we're getting together and doing socials and things like that. And we can actually hang out and see what's going on. And to be able to say that's one of the things that often often when a lot of these races, we'll have these ambassador programs to kind of bring these folks together, these racing organizations with JNA. It's not just Shamrock that we do, but to see these organizations really kind of bringing in people who are a part of the community who also have a vested interest in, like, man, the more that we develop this race, the more that we make it feel like a community, the more that we make it feel like home. Not only are we building up for those who are coming in, because I think last year we had somebody from every state entered into Shamrock, one of the Shamrock races. But then you think, how many folks from Hampton Roads, like, would just narrow it down to anybody with a 757 area code in their phone number or a Hampton Road zip code. How many of those people are coming and doing races and the impact that can have? And so, one of the kind of roles that I often appreciate as an ambassador, though it's also kind of one of the more frustrating ones, is getting the information out there about races and what it looks like for us to, communicate, help in, telling folks about how awesome these races are. And so as you're thinking about, going out to run clubs and being active in the community, what have you seen that's worked for you that's helped you to be able to talk about what you enjoy most about running, what you enjoy most about the running community, not necessarily just from a JNA aspect, but just about community? Whether it's you're inviting someone to run club or you're inviting someone to a race or you're just having a good time at run club and enjoying community there, what are you doing in that space to talk about what this means for you?
Well, I mean, you're talking to like a certified extrovert, so it's really not hard for me to talk about anything that I enjoy.
We gotta, Montana, we gotta help the introverts. We gotta help them so that they know how to do these things.
It's like literally so easy for me. You could like just come up to me and say something about Disney and we'll have an hour-long conversation about Disney because like you just mentioned it. So like that's always been what it's about, and sharing my love of like not just JNA races, but when I was in Tampa, like the races there and the OCR and like the socks that I wear. It's so easy for me to promote and talk about something that I love because I just want everybody to love it as much as I do. So it's easy for me to have those conversations and just be like, hey, these are great socks and these are great sunglasses and you should wear them too, because this is why, like XYZ, it helps me with this. I mean, it's just that comes so naturally to me. I know it doesn't to a lot of people. But I think like what is the easiest thing about finding something you love and then trying to tell other people about it would just be like focusing on how it makes you feel and what it does for you as a person, because like we all run for different reasons. Of course, some of us, it's a stress reliever. Others do it for like the PRs. Some people do it because they want to push their limits and distance. Other people, it's like, for friendship and groups and community, and everybody's got their own why. So, I mean, it's just like, it's finding what about it speaks to you, I think. And then, being able to like have conversations about that, even if it's not, doesn't come second nature to you. There's got to be something that keeps us all in the running community and keeps us all, doing this year after year. Because I mean, let's face it, running's actually kind of hard. It's not really easy.
A little bit.
So I mean, like, why do we do that? Like, just because, I mean, there's something about it that we all love. So finding what really speaks to you about it, and then focusing on that and having those conversations, I think that can really help in promoting anything that you like. I mean, really, because it's just going to be a lot easier to promote something if you find what you enjoy about it. Not everybody's going to have the same experience, but you can actually speak to what makes it special for you.
And I mean, I think that's the important part is we continue to remind ourselves what draws us in, right? I mean, I don't think there's probably a whole lot of hobbies where like one of the primary mantras that we often use is don't die. Or
where you have to sign death waivers before you participate in races.
Or even my favorite one is my mantra for this year is don't do anything stupid. But to really attach on to that why and focus on what makes it enjoyable, right? I mean, even in our most, as sad as it is, like depressive states, like when we are just so upset about running, whether it's like injury or we haven't PR'd in a while and we're just not like, it isn't, it's going back to that. Why are we running? Like, why do we do this crazy thing where we go out and we run, 13 miles, 26 miles for some people, 50, 100 miles. That's different kind of crazy, but
they're very crazy,
very crazy. But when, we have something, it's like, yeah, like we rag on running because honestly, we love running so much. I mean, it's like that weird, like love-hate relationship where the love wins over because of how much we hate it, I guess. I don't know. But I wonder how much more getting other folks and encouraging them in their whys helps us to also reinforce that communal feeling. How much, when you're at North End, when you're at Norfolk, and you're being reminded of how like amazing that running community is, how supportive, how there they are, in that same breath for those other runners who are struggling. I'm thinking about if I'm having a bad week, and in a lot of ways, I go to Run Club and being there, even though it might suck because I'm there, is actually uplifting. How much of that do you experience?
Well, I mean, running, it is hard. And, we're never going to 100% love it all the time. I mean, I don't think anybody 100% loves anything that they do all the time. There's going to be those tough days. There's going to be the days where like, it just doesn't click, or like maybe it's a really hot run and you're having to walk a lot and you're like kind of upset about that, or maybe you don't hit your PR or something. But I think I read a post recently and it was on Women's Running Magazine, and it was talking about finding things to love about the sport when you're not hitting your best times. Because it's easy to love it when you are and you're having success after success, but like you said, there's like injuries that set you back, or like in this particular post it was talking about moms and like postpartum training and stuff. So there's all kinds of things that your body's going to change and things are going to happen. You're going to do like, you're going to have different abilities, or like, let's just say you lost somebody you love and you're not getting a lot of sleep or something. There's like a million reasons why running might not be like something that you focus on 100% of the time, or that you're like at your best at, because there's extenuating life circumstances that you can't, be at your best for that. But you have to find something to love about it, even in those tough times when it's not easy and it's not coming to you easy and you're not getting the mileage or the times that you want. So it was just talking about finding other things to appreciate about the sport. And for me, honestly, that has just always been coming back to the community and just being a part of a community. I like to be a part of something bigger than myself. And so that's what it is for me. Like, when I'm not enjoying running on my own, when like my times aren't what I want, and it's not like, I'm not hitting the times or the goals or that I set for myself. It's just about being a part of the community and being out there. Like, I can't tell you how much fun I have at race weekends, just showing up and like hanging out with everybody. Like, even if I have a really crappy race, like it's still like super fun to just be out there and just chill.
I'll say, how about if you don't even run the race?
Or that.
Yeah.
Like I literally, one year I think I was injured in 2022. I was coming off an injury, and I had signed up for the Shamrock Half, but I couldn't run it because I had just gotten done screwing up my knee, and like I had just gotten through 3 months of physical therapy. And I was like, this is not going to be a good idea. Like I ran the 8K, but I was like, I'm just going to give up my half entry because like I'm not going to put myself through that. Like I haven't been doing long mileage in like 6 months plus, and like this is just probably a really bad idea if I go out there and try and run 13 right now. Like with my knee the way it is, I'm like I'm just now getting up to 5-6 miles, so I'm like this is not smart. So I'm like I'm just going to go out and cheer. But I made these signs. One of them actually said, smile or laugh if you poop today. It had the little poop emoji on it. Everybody loved that sign. Like I got so many laughs from people, and like people were fist bumping me and high fiving me and stuff. It was fun just to be out there and make people smile and laugh. Like, I mean, I just loved getting out there with the community. And I was at the North End Run Club tent, and just like watching people smile as they came up and saw my sign, and like, just like enjoying. That was like a part of the race where like I think it was like close to the turnoff. So like some of the marathoners were like feeling it at that point, and they were like, okay, but then they got a second wind from seeing all the signs and all the people cheering and everything. And so it was fun to like, be the person that like that hype person that was like giving them that extra second wind and helping them to make it past that tough point in the race.
Well, and again, it's that reminder of, beyond running, we can still play a role in our community, right? Like we don't always have to be running. We don't have to think that it's like you have to show up as a runner at every single race in order to be part of this running community, right? Even when if you're injured or, you want to take a race off, I always, sometimes it can be that feeling of guilt where it's like, oh, we have all of these races, like every weekend, I have to be at every single one of them. I have to run my best. I have to do my best at all of them. But to say it's like, maybe sometimes it's more about the races you don't run where you are like a cheering figure. I think about a lot of the folks who they won't run the race. I see people in the community. I don't remember the last time I saw them actually run a race, but I see them on the sideline, like jogging or, giving you, a pace for, half a mile, whatever it is. And to think about how much that builds up our community as well. And getting away from sort of the understanding that in order to be part of the community, I always have to be doing the thing. I have to be there and participating in it in such a way. But to remind ourselves that to be a part of the running community can also mean, hey, I'm there, I'm cheering, I'm, working a water stop, I'm helping to make sure that people are hydrated on long runs, things like that. Like I think of when J&A did the community event, what's it like a couple of weeks from when we're recording this, or a week ago from when we're recording this now, the people who were just there, they didn't run any miles, but they handed out water. They, Amy was there with a small puppy dog. I did not make it to 80th Street, but, they're encouraging and giving support. And I think about how much important that is as well in the running community too. And what that offers to those who are coming and experiencing Hampton Roads as well.
Yeah, and I just really appreciate people like that. You underestimate how much it means to have somebody, just like you said, giving you a cup of water. There was like on one of my long run routes in Sarasota, when I was down there was a church, and every Saturday they knew the runners would be out. So they sat out there, and they weren't there to try and promote their church to us or anything. They weren't doing anything like that. It wasn't like, an adverse reason. It was just, they sat out there with a whole thing of water, and they would just like chit chat with runners as they came by. And like, they would just offer the bathrooms in the church if we needed them, and they'd have the water for us, and we could just take a cup. And like, they just did it because they wanted to give back to the community. And I think that was one of my favorite things about that route. And it was one of the reasons I always tried to run it, because these two older guys would just sit at this table, and they were so nice, and they were very like sweet, and they would just, hand us like, like gels, and they had the water out, and then we could use their bathroom. And it was just something to look forward to. Like, you knew they'd be out there like without fail every single Saturday morning. I saw them. So it wasn't like they weren't runners. They weren't, into that kind of thing, but they were just a part of the community as a whole, like as a church. And so they would just help the runners because they knew there were so many runners that would come through on that route. So it was just nice. And I appreciate like people like that who just come out and give up their free time to, offer something up to people that they know could use it, and to open up, whatever place of business or like their homes or whatever for hospitality reasons, just to be, nice and say, here, you can use these facilities.
And helping to, like you said, I mean, be a part and build that community, even though they probably have no desire, but they want to make sure that, the community is taken care of, that the community is able to do what it needs to do. And, whether that's create space or offer hydration or nutrition or anything like that, to me, I always think of that's when, not just running community, right? This is where running community transcends just running, and it goes into like community, like just the broader community. So this is great. So let's hit these end of podcast questions here as we wrap up our conversation. All right. So Montana, here we go. Speed run or long run?
Speed every time.
Solo or group run?
Group.
Morning or evening runner?
That depends. How early are we talking in the morning?
Let's go 7 a.m.
Then I'm going to say evening, because I'm not a big morning person. Like I like like mid morning. So like right now is great because I can wait till like 10 or 11 to do my runs because it's still nice outside. In the summertime, that's like my least favorite time, because then I have to wake up at like 5 a.m. or else I'll die.
You'll melt immediately.
But
all right, well, here we go. Summer or winter?
Oh, winter.
Okay.
110%.
All right, what do you listen to while you run? Like if you're not having conversations with people?
It varies. I do a lot of Peloton workouts, so I'll listen to them because I like the instructors. They're like, you can push yourself, and I'm like, yes, I can. And then I get really into it. And then I also I like to listen to murder podcasts. That's like it really, like I'm a true crime girl, so like it really intrigues me. I was listening to some last week on my long run, and honestly, I wanted to keep running because I was really into the podcast. It was like I had already hit my 8 miles, but I was like, no, I want to keep listening to this podcast. I want to keep going.
All right, I don't know that I'd be able to do that while running. I feel like I'd be constantly looking over my shoulder.
I don't do it in the dark. Like if I'm running by myself in the dark, that I do not do it then. But like in the broad daylight, it's fine.
What is your favorite distance to race?
I'm going to say like the 10K because it's not as painful as a 5K. You've got time to ease and settle in, but you can still do it in like about an hour or maybe an hour and 10 minutes. Like you're not out there forever. I don't like to really suffer for more than an hour. So like that's a good like middle distance.
And lastly, Montana, can you give our listeners a reason to join their local run group?
You're just going to have like so much fun. You're going to have other people out there that are doing the same thing, whether it's the same time goal, same distance goal, same race even. It doesn't have to be the same of any goals. You're going to meet so many awesome people. Like runners as a whole are just an amazing community of people. I have had so many runners just offer to help in times of need that have nothing to do with running because we're members of the same community. So, the friends you'll make and the people you'll meet are just incredible. And I highly recommend, getting involved with a local run club because, you'll probably meet some of the best friends you'll ever have in your life.
So there you go. Make a friend. Thank you so much for joining, Montana.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was so great being back in the 757 interviewing someone from down here. I've been away from there for a while, just been getting guests out of the area, but it's always nice to come back, especially as we here in Hampton Roads, we're getting ready for, what we consider our Super Bowl. In fact, I just got that email from J&A the other day that this is the Super Bowl. This is the big time for what we are doing around here. This is our big race. And so it was nice to get someone like Montana on, and I'm going to have another couple of local runners here coming up as well. And so it was great to hear Montana talk about her experiences of community, moving from Florida here to Hampton Roads, getting embedded in this community, what it was like to learn about new running clubs and where they were, and seeing how all of these great running clubs come together. And it's not just the spirit within the clubs, it's the spirit at the races, it's the spirit all over that builds up this community. And honestly, always makes it that much more fun for people to experience. For those of you who have never been to Shamrock, first of all, I invite you to come on down St. Patty's Day weekend. But if you come down there, just run clubs all up and down. You will see them taking pictures at the starting line, cheering along the course, having fun at the finish and at after party and everything else. And I think Montana really brings that spirit out as she talks about how much they support on the course, how much they support just all throughout any of these races we're doing. And it's not something unique to Hampton Roads. This is something that happens all over the country. Just being from here, I see it happening, and I think we've seen it in a lot of our other guests too. And so, if you're here from Montana, if this is your first episode, I invite you go back, listen to some other episodes. I've got episodes with Jerry and Amy Frostick. Whew, that was a long time ago, all the way last year, before Shamrock last year. Look back in the archives in February, March timeframe, and you'll see those. You'll see some other J&A ambassadors who I've had on, other folks from the 757 area. Go back, listen to those, really get a sense, but also listen to some of those other episodes. It's been great having folks from other running communities on as too. And so I encourage you, go back and listen to that. And while you're at it, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. I know, here I go. This is the support section of the podcast, and I'd love it if you would help to support me. I'm so grateful that you are listening to this episode, that you've even hung in this long. And so I'd love it if you would help to support, follow, subscribe to this podcast. That'll help it so that it pops right up in your feed for every episode. It'll just be right there, ready for you to listen every Saturday when you're going for your long run. You can connect with me on places like Instagram, Blue Sky, Strava. I also have my own Substack where I publish every so often. I try and do every week. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But you can follow me over there. I'm doing a lot of writing and getting a lot of my thoughts out there. And as well as if you are looking for a running coach, I have information there both on my Substack, on my website, runandrev.com, if you are looking for a running coach. If you could also help the podcast, make sure to jump on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a quick rating or review, drop a comment on Spotify. I'll make sure to read those out whenever I have them. Love seeing what you are enjoying, what is resonating with you. If you want to go that extra mile, I would love it if you would help to support the podcast by becoming a member over at buymeacoffee.com/runandrev. You can become a regular supporter there. You can become a supporter of my Substack. I have both of those things linked together. So either way, you'll get perks. And even if you just want to drop a one-time tip, you can go on over to buymeacoffee.com if you just really loved with this episode with Montana. I just want to thank you for being here, for being part of this journey. And until next time, go crush it out there. And as always, make every mile count.